Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the best growth mindset podcast recognized by Million Podcasts and ranked as a top mindset podcast by FeedSpot. We're proud to be in the top 1% on Listen Notes. Join Dr. Alisa Whyte as we explore powerful insights and strategies to elevate your mindset. Let's dive in.
Hello, disruptors, and welcome back to another phenomenal episode of Mindset Mastery Moments. You know, the market can feel like an ocean, waves rising and crashing, and if you're not ready, you can get completely knocked under. My guest today doesn't just understand that metaphor, he lives it. He's a financial expert and a surfer and a student of human behavior who has outperformed Wall Street firms at their own forecasting game. Will R. Young, CFP, is a financial expert with a deep passion for behavioral psychology. My kind of people. And stoicism, which is becoming a really important topic to me in this day and age. We've had a couple guests before. Can't wait to have him. But he's also really great at surfing. And there's a thing I'm learning about surfers that they are very unique individuals, and their mindset is something we can all glean from. He has, like I said, outperformed top economists in the global Good Judgment Project with an impressive track record in forecasting, including predictions on mortgage rates and CPI that meet major Wall Street firms, drawing from the teachings of Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. He's going to say all those words better than me, as well as a lesson learned from the ocean. Oh my gosh. Will helps investors navigate volatility with clarity, discipline, and resilience. He's also passionate about mentorship, building community for financial success. Will R. Young is here, and he is going to help us with our own financial forecasting and a whole lot of mindset disruption to get us on track in this current time. Not yesterday, but for today. Will, welcome to Mindset Master Moments. We are so excited to have you here with us today. Tell us who you are in your own words, what you do, and of course, we want to know why you do it.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on here today. And my specialty is behavioral psychology and finance. And a lot of that stems from the Stoic philosophies that I had learned about 15 years ago. And at the same time, I've always been a student of human nature. I didn't necessarily know the terminology of behavioral psychology and finance at that time.
Yeah.
And they went together with Stoicism so well, because Stoicism is the ancient philosophy, and you could even go back to Socrates on how to think.
Yes.
And how to ask more questions, how to get better definitions, how to have a process to do things. Those are all critical factors. But today's behavioral psychology is essentially just the compounding effects of Stoicism over time. Yet Stoicism is raw and it's our nature. Be fearful when we shouldn't, or be greedy at other times, or be hopeful. All of these things of human nature, the Stoics talked about, and being in control of what you can control. And it just so happens, I love surfing too, and it's a perfect metaphor for the markets and so much of life. The ocean's very vast and very dangerous, but at the same time, it almost draws people to the ocean, as we've seen all through history. The oceans have been what has drawn people. And it's been perilous for some and tremendously beneficial for others.
Exactly. I was sharing with you earlier that I was born and raised in Guyana, South America, and the Atlantic Ocean was literally in my backyard, like literally. Like when we were old enough to understand that we were so many levels, I can't remember, below sea level. Like I didn't understand why we literally built most of our major cities on the bank of the ocean. But I definitely experienced that call, and it's one of my happy places. Even when I'm not there, I mentally meditate and go to the ocean because there's so much gets revealed that is not even spoken, right? So Will, let's talk about connection and journey. You're not a typical numbers only financial strategist, obviously, with this, having that developing psychology, stoicism, even surfing. If you can share with us and just take me back where there was that moment where you realize, wow, understanding human behavior is actually the missing piece when it comes to money and markets. What was that moment and what did that look like?
when I was listening to Stoicism, I started listening to the books in Seneca,
Mm-hmm.
and there was two major factors. I had been always searching for an understanding, like people can't change, human nature can't change. In the past, you've always had people say the younger kids, they don't work as hard as we do. You could go to newspaper articles in the 1880s and they'd say kids don't work as hard as us as they used to. It's just, and when you went back 2,000 years ago and Seneca's walking through the streets of
Mm-hmm.
Rome and he's like, the mobs are going crazy over the sporting events. The
Yeah.
politicians can steal from them while they're paying attention to everything but what the politicians are doing. They're paying attention
Right.
to the gladiators. They're screaming for
Exactly.
people. I'm like, well, that's today. Don't we go football stadiums and scream and holler and
Still
be
doing it.
completely
Mm-hmm.
distracted from everything? And then
Yeah.
fight over a football game rather than fighting for equality and rights.
Come on.
That has never changed.
We're
It
still
is.
foolishly on the nonsense.
And then you have to watch out for the mob when they get worked up over something. I'm like, well, that hasn't changed either. You know, you get people riled up and they will do things that they don't necessarily mean to do because
Right.
you've seen it, whether it's Philadelphia winning the Super Bowl, they're running around, they just get caught up or worked up. None of that changes. It's just in our
No.
DNA. But to be able
Yes.
to have self-control, or temperance is what I call it, courage, justice, and wisdom are the four tenets of Stoicism. That resonated
Mhm.
so deep with me because I don't like lying. But then on the flip side, the second breakthrough, and this is really important, I never understood if you showed somebody something that's absolutely true, like you
Uh-huh.
get out a telescope and you say, there's the moon, we're revolving around it. And they'd say, well, there's flat. And the more you try to convince them, the deeper they dig into that. It's called the
Yes.
backfire effect bias. Those two
Mhm.
pieces kind of hit me about at the same time. And that's what led me, because evidence doesn't change people's minds. The emotional connections, if they trust you, trust is over truth. It's just a fact. So you have to gain
Yes.
trust before you get that.
For you to deliver any type of truth.
Yes. And so these types of things, I understood it. And then I understand the processes. But it was most of that was about 15 years ago or 13 years ago. And they kind of
Uh-huh.
worked their way together. And then I found the people that kind of created the modern day behavioral psychology, behavioral finance, neuroeconomics.
Yeah.
And that's when I just felt like I was drowning in information and trying to collect as much as possible.
So important. Feel like that's one thing when we talk, there's big conversation in the last few years about EQ, emotional intelligence. And I believe one of the best things you can do is allow yourself to go on a journey of really unofficially or officially, if it floats your boat, studying human behavior and psychology. Like you said, it's like I can watch a movie and I can tell you how it's kind of going to end. And people are like, well, there's few details I can't predict, of course, but you watch the pattern and you can see where they're going, because all the writers and producers of the movie is doing is rewriting human behavior, but putting it in a different time frame. Maybe it's something we're watching from Wakanda to you name it, but human behavior is the consistent, right, of the person. You can almost look through and know this one's going to hold this character and this one's going to hold their character. They might throw a little wrench in things here and there but they're really just repeating. And so after a while, all the movies of a certain type are like the same for me, but I have fun with
Correct.
it. And this is why I'm somebody who's kind of sometimes hard to watch, like particularly series. A movie, I'm quiet, but when it's a series, I want to pause and break down the character. I'm not for everybody.
Series are better for, I don't like movies. I like series because I feel like you get more development in the character.
Yes.
Because I can't just watch something and be done. I'm like, I need development. I need to understand
I need
the
more
psychology.
information. Yes. Like, I don't know where this thing came from. Where they just keep 2 hours of hodgepodge. So when people go, 3 hours and a half, that's a long movie. I'm like, that's a better.
Yes. Because you need development. I think that's when you're growth minded, like we are in your mindset, you want to understand, you want to walk away with learning something from it. And you can't do that when it's real short, because there's just it's just a quick story.
Yes.
Human nature is fascinating me.
It is. And I've always been a lover of understanding. I think that's one of the fascination is what helps us. And I tell people, like, some of us may be deeper. Obviously, you and I we're very deep on it. But if you develop that curiosity about human behavior, that's when you start to understand that the fact that you and I, our blood has the same color, and that I can give blood to, if I'm A positive, it doesn't matter what race you are, I can give blood
I'm A
to you.
positive too.
Right?
I call it A plus.
A plus, right? A plus. I love that.
A plus blood.
Exactly. So I can give you blood, you can give me blood. It's like, if you understand, if you just get curious about human behavior and human being humanist, you would understand that the only divide there is the one that's percepted and created, right? And so that alone, to me, as a business tool, is one way, because you end up being in a place that you're already at another level when you understand that. But again, like you said, and I love that, you said it's trust over truth. So my question to you is, how does one like yourself, like I, and all the other high achievers, business people thinking and listening to us right now, they're like, well, I like that. Sounds good. It makes sense. But what does that really look like on a level of business practice or just operational practice from day to day? Whether you own a business or not?
It would have been more challenging the first time Trump won, because obviously I think we were all shocked. But
I know I was.
Yeah, I mean, I remember how shocking it was. And the markets took off and just they did what they did.
Mm-hmm.
But this time around, I felt like it was more polarizing. And I had a bunch of clients who did vote for him. And they, behind me, instead of directly asking me, they asked the people that work for me, is he going to be negative on the market because of this? And I had written about all this stuff, and I don't really follow that type. And I went back to read them letters to show them, this is what I wrote, this is what we did. I'm not negative to be negative or positive to be positive. I just kind of lay it out. And then I went through
it's not indifferent.
Yeah, I went back and showed all the oil and gas companies I bought in 2020 and then sold in 2022. I'm like, so regardless of how you feel, bought them at a low point in 2020. I sold them after the Russia invasion when I knew they would never go higher, because that was hopefully a once in a lifetime invasion.
Yeah.
And so there was just a metric of the behavioral psychology of exuberance, extreme exuberance. So I sold them, but I knew oil companies wouldn't go out of business in 2020 because we'd probably have a car in a year from now, unless we were all dead.
Right.
Yeah. So I just kind of went through those cycles with them and kind of walked them through it, because it's much more divisive, I think, this time than last time. So I had to actually kind of walk them through it. And I say, I'm the one sitting across from you. I'm the one that if your finances go down, I get paid less. If your finances go up, I get paid more. I have 100% intrinsic value to be a capitalist and make money for you. And I do buy stocks, whether I like the company or not. They're just ticker symbols to me. That's all they mean. To you, you feel like they may symbolize something, but to me, they mean nothing. They're just conduits to put money in. And I have to understand that. And so I had a lot of those talks at the beginning of the year because people were nervous. But my track record, I had to show them a lot of the forecasting and the other stuff. But ultimately, I already had the trust. In some sense, we were friends, but they still questioned it, which made me kind of shocked, to be honest. So you
saw people's trust because of their fear of what is going to happen, what the political environment could create, that your trust was shaken. Their trust in you was shaken, not necessarily because of your because you've shown them any evidence that they should question it. As a matter of fact, the track record is you've always been on point and you deliver. But because of the political environment, they questioned whatever your political beliefs or values are, and who and where, what candidate you support, it could impact how you function in your work and what you do. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. So a lot of people believed, because they have jobs, they go to school. Again, I break everybody down to two parts. The con man, I have contempt for the con man, and I have compassion for the conned. That is because a lot of people are really simplistic. They don't spend a lot of time, even though we seem like, oh my God, it's so obvious. They're like, I just ran my kid to soccer, then I had to go this. My mom's been sick for 3 months. I got to take. So they're running around, and he kept promising manufacturing. Quite a few of them thought it's going to be a manufacturing boom. And you just sit there and go, well, that requires investment. And I know but it's such a
You can
complicated
forecast
thing
it.
that I had to use something called the illusion of information adequacy bias and the illusion of explanatory
Oh.
depth bias, where I would ask them to talk me through it and
Uh-huh.
they couldn't. And I had to be careful because I didn't want to embarrass them. You can't. So there's a way you can, a whole system where you can ask them questions and say, could you explain the process and why? He's like, well, he said it. I'm like, well, just go a little deeper on it because I want you to understand the work that I do so that you can understand my processes. And I'm asking your genuine opinion. So these types of things then cause them to reflect. If they start to reflect or they deflect and redirect that stuff, then you can kind of get an understanding that, okay, they have to realize they know less than they do, but they've heard it so much, they just seem to believe it is a guarantee. And I don't know, I think that's what drove them the most is I wasn't very bullish on the economy. I said, we're going to have to wait and see for the policies that happen.
Right. That happens
rather than
to be able to plan a roadmap. Yes.
Yes. And again, now we know. And so I don't make decisions based on talk. I said, once we know the laws and the laws are in place, then I can make decisions. But it was a lot of work with them because they know how much I dislike certain behaviors. I don't like lying. I don't like the vulgarity. I don't like any of this type of stuff. I'm a community-based person, bringing people together.
Yes.
And so it did challenge me in that way, but I was up for the challenge because they know, again, I can navigate this stuff. I've been doing this and I've continually improved. But it was challenging for quite a few people who were really caught up in the excitement. Like, it's a dawn of a new day, all this manufacturing. I was like, where are the people going to come from? You only had one. And so these are the questions you start asking them.
Uh-huh.
And that's why I wrote about the immigration. Like 85% of all of the job growth has been immigration over the past 6 years. You don't have any immigrants, there's no job growth because we don't have any
I'm telling
kids.
you, I've been in the workforce. That's been in my major work. Everything people see me do, what they don't know is that I've been in the workforce industry from a government nonprofit sphere since 2014. So as a workforce strategist with employers and working with the government to help people stay. And when I got into the industry 11 years ago, I looked at people in my inner circle and I'm like, I can tell you what Governor Charlie Crist is going to say. I could tell you what this governor is going to say because I'm in the pot where we're the ones driving those numbers. And I'll tell you that if we're not driving those numbers, they don't get to go up there and say everything about a politician's career is not only it's to the finance market and then secondly, the workforce and what those numbers look like. And because that affects almost what's happening in the financial market, and the workforce is what we seem to rally around more. So they play to the tune. There's, of course, I'm going to say in the back end, there's a whole lot more important stuff happening. So don't get me wrong. And don't come for me because I'm not a financial analyst. I'm not a political analyst. But my knowing that they play on those numbers because we only look for those numbers as commoners. We, as people in the society, not understanding there's so much that goes behind it. This is why I'm going to say firmly that a lot of people, when someone says, oh, immigrants is the problem, and they program us by saying it over and over again, we believe it because we're trying to find an easy way out for why we are not successful as an individual. And I'm using just a collective term. It doesn't mean me and it doesn't mean Will. It's just saying collectively, they know that a majority of us are looking to outsource our own power as to why we are not gaining and picking up momentum in our own lives. While there are things that economically and politically affect that, they know we're more comfortable with the outsource. So when they say, there's the bad guy, we go running, and we're not. Like, you were sharing just now in your conversation, everyone was asking you to give them information based on what a political leader or figurehead, and I'm not playing with my words, I said what I said, a political leader or figurehead uses based on what they say. You're going to now think you're going to preempt your plans and forecast based on what they said, based on what they wrote in some paper that they call what they're running on. That's all make believe. You have known every politician has delivered maybe 0.5 of what they said they would. Doesn't matter which side they've been on, in my opinion. I know I'm going really low, maybe a little bit more, but for me, it's just 0.5 of all the good, wonderful things. Right? It is difficult because there's so many things. Because you need the House,
the Senate, they need to come to agree. Like, people don't even understand the basics of how that stuff works.
No,
And
they
then they
don't.
just assume the president has a magic wand. And
Yeah.
I'd spent a lot of time teaching and writing, and I wrote a lot about that. I didn't mean to cut you off, but yes,
No,
they don't
I want you
understand
to. Right
the
there.
depth of that, where I'm like, you need, 215 people to vote for this in order to get it across the line. And then there could be lobbyists in the other areas. And so that's why things don't
All
work out.
those things vary. All those things vary. Those things come into fruition. And so I'm like, then you got to understand, you can't make plans on that. You can't forecast your financial future is what I'm saying, and you can correct me or guide me. I'm open because you're the expert. But really and truly, you do have to wait and see what laws actually go into place to sort of know. I mean, you as a guy who's in the trench can have some inkling, but you wouldn't guide your clients, is what I'm hearing, into making a firm decision until something is into law. And now you know what's actually happening, and that's what you're making decision on, because that's the truth part.
Yes.
Is that
and
what I'm
even
hearing?
if it happens in June of, say, 2020, and I think is when the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act went into play, then takes, the year, people don't realize the government starts October 1st. Like, there's all these other factors that are involved. And then it took, 6 months for the very first time, we started manufacturing again, and the biggest manufacturing boom in the history of the United States as a percentage of GDP. But it took 6 to 9 months to get these rolled out. They don't happen instantly because you're talking about the world's largest economy, and we hadn't done it. Now, we did build Taiwan Semiconductor in the beginning in Arizona. In the beginning of 2024, broke ground February, I believe, 6th. And they actually created a 3-nanometer chip, which I believe is about 15 atoms. And it took 7 months. But they got a $5 billion payout from the CHIPS Act, which then led to them building it. And so I understand all this, but it's so complicated. Yes. People don't want to know that. And the point I'm making is you wanted to buy the chips after the chip bill, not now the chips are way up. So you have to think, a year or 2 years in advance, because this takes a long time. You need to get the concrete there, the steel there. You got to import all this stuff. You got to get the planes. You got to get the company. You got to have there's so many moving pieces. And then when it becomes the first time, we can move faster if we wanted to, but there's a lot of work involved. So even if we wanted to, and they came out with legislation, we wouldn't be in a situation where it would help for probably a year, and they're not going to do it. Yeah. So it just takes time. And people, like I always say to people, when you're surfing in the water, you don't get 30 waves just because you want them. They come when they come, and you ride what you have. And this is the same with the economic data. When it comes, you make adjustments, but I can't force a month to be a week. And that's how people often think, is they want it now, or I'm like, well, we're going to have to wait. And that is part of the mindset of patience, and to calm yourself and know that you have to be patient. And then when it comes, you have to be able to act on that. And a lot of people don't act on it because then they're scared. It's easy to buy when everybody else is buying. It's hard to buy when no one else wants to buy.
Exactly. And for those of you who are listening, I'm going to say it right here. Will does send out data and information guidances in the area that affects so much. I paid attention to one of the mails I got from him yesterday, and I didn't even realize this. I'd been on his mailing list somewhere before. But the information is so in-depth, and it really helps you with some level of planning. And he's not just giving you random stuff. It's very strategic. So we're going to tell you, so stay tuned to the end so you can find out how you can be in his sphere where you're getting that information. And then ultimately you can decide to work with him or where you want to take it. So you have gone head to head with top economics in the Good Judgment Project, right?
Yes.
Actually beat them at their own forecasting it. What do you think you're seeing that they're not seeing?
Well, I've always wondered, this is something that stuck with me since I was a little kid. I turn on a sporting event, people would make predictions, and I would write down, this person's been wrong 12 times in a row. Why are they an expert? I just never understood it. It just didn't make sense to me. And then it's in finance, politics, and sports. You could have someone predict the wrong election 25 times in a row, and they're on CNN, Fox, or whatever, and no one,
still there.
They should have a grade above them saying, it's like if you have a quarterback and you have a quarterback rating, and you would want a quarterback with a high rating, not a quarterback with a low rating. But for some reason, you don't have these types of grades or efficiencies, or Brier score it's called. And I started writing probably in 2015, that I would get to the beginning of every year and I'd say, why are they giving forecasts? And then I'd look at them and like 90% of them are wrong. And everybody typically says about 8%. Everybody just says this. And then in 2024, I'll give you an example. JP Morgan, biggest bank in the world, said the stock market will probably fall like 5%. Well, of course, the market was up like 22%. Again, that's a big miss and this is just a common thing, but nobody goes back to check them. So I started trying to figure out, what can I do to be better so that I could understand certain things? And then, do I look at things accurately? Do I need to make adjustments? How often so I read Super Forecasters years ago, the book. It's built off of Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky's work. And I joined it. And so I'd go in and write about the 10-year treasury, 30-year treasury, CPI, oil, S&P, all these things, because I felt like I could give good opinions and I would look at probabilities. Most people think in terms of, I heard this and they predict. I look at the probability of it. Like, what's the probability, Bayesian probability? And it seemed natural to me, but it's unnatural to most people. Most people just want to say, it'll be 10% or let's have a drink or let's go eat some food. And I'm like, this is a challenge. Yeah. And so that's what brought me to it. It's fun. It's enjoyable. And I love getting the information because I want people to feel like I am a conduit to share this type of stuff in a different way than just the generic and boring way. So you get some stoicism, some surfing, some behavioral psychology. And if I write about it ahead of time and it happens, then I could say, look, we wrote about this. We're prepared to buy it.
Yeah.
Because once I buy, which is typically when it's really feels really crazy, I'm like, we're buying, let's say hypothetically, Apple at 80. It's not going to go out of business. No. You use your Apple phone to get here. You use the map point. You Google it over here. You bought at Walmart earlier today. They're all on sale. And you talk to people that way. I'm like, I saw your bill at Costco, $750. You think they're going out of business? You know what I mean?
Right.
So much money.
Just talk about Costco. Boy, I want to own one of those. Jeez.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I just talk to people like that. Like, okay, and if I'm wrong about Walmart, let's buy Target, Walmart, and Costco. We'll buy all three. And hopefully 2 of them go up. And 2 of them did. Target didn't, and for good reason. But the point I'm making is you can't hit home runs, but if you talk people through the logic, they're like, that does make sense. That does make, because to me, it does. They're just symbols. They don't mean anything to me.
Right. They're just symbols. And I think that's when you, like you said, once you get in a space where you have a growth mindset, and you are removing that stoicism, right? You're removing an emotional preference to outcomes. Outcomes are what they are and what they're not. They don't have feelings about things. It's you driving all this emotion. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be emotional, but there's just some things you separate your feelings and your emotion from it so that you can make better and clear decisions. You also talk about effective forecasting as well, in a way where emotions, talking about emotions, about the future influence decisions. Can you break that down in a simple term? How does it show up when people are making money moves or investment in their just day-to-day lives?
When things are good, I don't write as much because people feel good, the accounts go up, everybody's kind of relaxed. But when I feel like there's a critical juncture, if there's a book called Why Nations Fail, and it talks about
I have to check
critical junctures or institutional drift. And you could have that in the market. You could have an AI boom, which is like everybody talks about it so much, but no one wanted to, or very few people did want to buy it back with me in 2022. They want to buy it now when it's popular. So these cycles kind of come and go. Let me think about this the proper way. The reason I'm bringing it up is when I feel like there's danger ahead, I want to get in front of it because I want people to know we're not driving fast. We're going to slow down a bit. We've done very well. And because there's institutional drift right now, and this is, I feel, a critical juncture, these two things, I'm going to be ahead of this. I can't stop losing money when the markets go down. But I have a plan to go out and buy. And here's what I did in 2018, 2020, 2022. So I have that plan. I don't know what I'm going to buy, but events will happen. And when they do, we will have the ability to buy things when others are probably scared. We'll be able to pick those discounts up. Like in housing in 2010, you could have bought a house very inexpensively in 2010 because there was so many people who had lost their house. But people are like, I wonder if housing will keep going down. It's like, no, I didn't buy a house then, but the point I'm making is if they're prepared for it, they feel a sense of ease, like you're guiding them, you're coaching them in the boat, so to speak, and like, hey, just keep rowing. We're good. It's storm's almost through, and we have the best boat in all of the store.
I love that. I love that. That makes absolute sense. Let's talk about those everyday people again. What are some of those mental traps you see investors, even entrepreneurs, fall into, and how can they catch themselves before it really costs them?
I think one of the greatest mistakes people make in investing is they fall in love with one stock and or a company. Again, Tesla might be one of those where people are like, oh, we love Elon, or we like this company or that. And then they make some money with it because it does well. And it creates this overconfidence. And that is a bias where, because you can look and say, well, I bought this, it went up, I can keep replicating this. This is the most humbling place in the world. Everybody loses. And I believe, if I'm correct, only 1 out of 100 people who day trade make money. At a casino, 10 out of 100 make money. So just to give you an idea.
Those stats are, I did not know that. That is interesting.
And I've heard a million horror stories, and I day trade today and then, and I make money, but it's, I don't do it the way other people do. I bought and sold Tesla, but I wouldn't buy it for clients because I don't understand certain things. So I have to buy things that I can understand and relate to them. I can trade it. Because the way I try to explain to people, Yahoo stock was $400 a share in 2000. If you trade it, if it went to 401, you could make money. And if you were short and it went to 400 to 399, you could make $1. But if you were long term, it went down to $20. So there's different goals, and you have to understand what is your goal. And for a lot of people, we explain what is our short-term goals. That way, if we need cash, we need other stuff. We're defining different goals, but people have to understand how people are trading, or they get caught up in Bitcoin or these other ones. People always want to make quick money. It's never changed. They wanted to make quick money in the 1870s with the bucket shop trading, or they want to make quick money at the racetrack. That's never going to change. That's why they gamble. Quick, easy money. I can outsmart everybody, but everybody believes that. And then you get overconfident.
Yes.
And ultimately, you tend to lose a lot more money, and then it burns you. And then eventually, it becomes very challenging for a lot of people because their ego is tied to the success. I've lost a lot of money, and I probably lose 40% of my personal trades, which is a lot, but I make 3 times the amount of money on a winning trade. And so I have a formula. But what I tell other people is, you got to understand what you're buying, what it's doing, what the values. There's all these other factors. And most people just kind of hear, oh, I like Google, I like Apple, and they don't really understand what they're doing. Or I like this person, I think it. And it can be dangerous because we feel like when a stock we buy goes down, we get kind of like, I don't want to walk away with a loss. And then I see a lot of people holding stocks 10 years later that haven't went up, like IBM hasn't went up in 20 years,
Wow.
Yes, I mean, GE, General Electric, was the biggest company on earth in 2000. Now it's one of the smallest. Everything changes, cycles change. ExxonMobil was the biggest company in the world at one time, and now it's a fraction of what it once was. So that's where what can seem so absolutely certain is why you need a mindset, why you need a process. And that's why stoicism, psychology, time to meditate so that you can cleanse your mind. You cleanse your mind and have decision hygiene, meaning just wash yourself up each and every day so that you can start fresh. Because every day is like walking through a minefield. And just because you walk through one minefield here doesn't mean the next day can't be different. So every day you have to do a little bit of practice on that. I like to use decision hygiene.
Did you say decision hygiene? That is beautiful. I love that term. So I love the parallels that you draw between surfing and investing. Share 1 or 2 of those lessons from the water that really shape the way you see risk, patience, and opportunity.
Now, when you're in the water, I was scared. About a little over a year ago, I started to really want to surf again. And I had surfed. I could pop up and do stuff like that. But I had never been to Bali. And they're reef breaks, not beach breaks. And the very first time I go there, they take us out 1,000 meters in a boat. And they say, get out. And I look around going, there isn't even a beach. We're just like out in the middle of the ocean surfing. And I remember like, I'm going to do it, but this is crazy.
Yeah.
I remember distinctly watching other people, and I had the community of other people, which is helpful. But it just shows you the vastness and strength of you're watching things. All these things are out of your control. And I remember just sitting there saying, okay, I'm going to take my time. I'm going to work with the coach and stuff. But I guess the point I'm making is you're just out there and you have to calm yourself and keep your mind straight. You control the board, you control your skill level, you control all these other things, but you don't control the waves, the power. And I remember specifically when I fell, I hit the coral and cut myself up pretty good. Oof. And like, I wasn't worried, but that's part of, I guess, the learning curve is there's nothing you can do about it. You're going to get bruised on this journey to improve. And when I got back in with everybody, it's like, oh yeah, everybody hits the coral. And you start to realize, like, I don't want to hit the coral again, but I also know that everybody has some basic learning lessons. And I think one thing with surfers is everybody kind of shares and talks about afterwards what they're doing and how they're feeling and tries to help each other out. It's a big community. And I think with me in investing, I like to share that with people to help take away some of the learning curve or the bad behaviors that you may have. So when you go to coral, always wear shoes, because if you do hit the coral, you don't cut your feet. And your feet are pretty important. There's, that was kind of one of the things where, you're used to touching the bottom sometimes.
Yeah.
And you could be 1,000 meters out. The coral is only 4 feet deep. So you look down and you can see the coral below you. And it's like, oh my God, I had no idea that was there. And then you go under and you hit the coral and it hurts.
There you are. There it is. Boom.
And so I wasn't prepared for that. And that's, again, why you need to be more prepared. I felt like the surf coaches probably should have said more to me or asked me more questions. I wasn't in danger because you got the surfboard. I had the right size and I had it strapped to my ankle so I could always get back up. But the point is, there are so many things you just don't know. And especially when you're in different areas, that you want to be extra cautious because, again, the ocean is vast and strong, and so is the $1 trillion economies that you have no control over it. And so there's nothing you can really do.
Love that analogy. It does. That's definitely a parallel that I can just apply to so many things. That's what I always hear from surfers, that you learn so much about yourself and also your learning processes, and that also the community building. It's one of the reasons I think a lot of us, I didn't watch a whole lot of Baywatch, but I did watch enough, right? Because they weren't necessarily, they were just there and you saw how they interacted, and you're like, yeah, I wish I could have friends like that. Let's talk stoicism. Stoicism says that you focus on what you can control. Of course, for many of us, that's easier said than done, especially when bills are due and the market's dipping back and forth. How do you personally practice that kind of discipline in the middle of uncertainty? How do you use your stoicism knowledge and training?
I really force feed it into my brain every morning. I do a couple different things. The very first thing I do when I wake up is I play 10 minutes. Sometimes it's on a Stoic app, but every day I do 10 minutes of Seneca or Epictetus in the book, and I listen to it, and I typically copy and paste a portion of it on like a book, and then I email it to myself and I reread it at the end of the day. And then I get a couple other journals and stuff like that. But the very first thing I do every single day is start with stoicism, because it may be discipline, it may be preparation, it may be premeditation malorum, which means if you prepare for the bad ahead of time, it will never be as bad because you set your mind up for it. So that, I mean, Seneca worked for Nero. Nero was he wound up killing Seneca. Nero killed his mother. He killed lots of people, like one of the most crazed. And he was also one of the wealthiest people, but you're dealing with somebody who's mentally ill, and he trained the boy and all this other stuff. So there's a lot of stories in there, and Seneca was very smart and thoughtful and wrote a lot of deep letters. So when you listen to them, or then you go back and read them. So I listen to them and then read it. You really start to absorb, okay, I have a limited amount of time. I want to take advantage of this time. I want to make sure that I'm present in my time. Like they're just constant reminders.
Little nuggets are coming through
that are just timeless. Like I think Seneca said one of my favorites. He's like, if I want to be entertained by a clown, I don't need my wife's best friend to come over. I'm my own clown myself. Like, but they were humorous too, because the relationships are still funny. His wife still has her friends, still coming over, still being funny. And he's like, if I need a clown, I'm the best clown of all. I can make fun of myself. So you just realize, like, they had humor. they were funny, and people stole from them. One Epictetus had someone steal from him, and he's like, well, I guess I'll have to buy another lamp. I just get it, it just, all the things that happened then happen now. And you think about it and you realize, like, okay, like, I have timeless information. Marcus Aurelius ruled most of the modern developed world. He was the most powerful person. He could do anything he wanted. And in his journal, he goes, am I doing what is right? Am I making the best decisions? And you're thinking, like, if that was, who are a lot of dictators, they wouldn't even question this. But he's writing,
but you know who?
How can I improve upon my judgment? Should I forgive my friend? Like, he didn't have to. He's literally the emperor. He could just, and he forgave. Yeah, he forgave his friend who turned against him initially. And you just realize, I have that kid. If he can do it, I have it. So these are like really important nuggets that make you question, like, okay, what is freedom? Freedom isn't money. Freedom is financial independence, but more money doesn't give you freedom. If you're checking it all day long, if you're following it all day long, then you're not free. It's a shackle to you. And like for me, when I see other people's freedoms taken away, that just means the shackles haven't made it to me yet. And that's the same way it's there. They're coming.
That's true.
They're always coming. They're shackling them before they get to you. And they're just practicing those shackles.
Exactly.
And that's essentially what you learn about people. And I know what is right. I know what needs to be done. And it just keeps you. The first quality is virtue, the quality of your judgments. If I make this judgment and if I do it, well, I feel good about it. I don't care what anyone else thinks.
That's how I think too. That's my thought process.
That's all that matters.
Will I be able to sleep at night?
Yes. When you're in your early 20s, you're running around, you're meeting friends, you're going out, you're having drinks with, like, again, you're just a child still. But when you get to a certain point in your life, in your 30s, you become an adult and you got to make adult decisions, in my view. Because in your 20s, I think we're making all friends, we're traveling, going to school.
You're still figuring things out.
Correct. But once you get to that, you need to start figuring out, am I going to lead the life I was meant to? Am I going to be proud? Because when you die, people aren't going to say, well, he had a lot of money or she had a lot of money. They will say they were cruel, they were mean, or they will say this was a good person. They rescued, like I rescued orangutans last year. I flew to Peru and rescued animals. Like these are things that mean so much to me. And like I have these memories of I'm hanging out with. Yes. So that's essentially what matters to me in Stoicism is it solidified what I want it to be and who I want it to be, so that if people ever said, well, why does Bill do that? They know they don't have to. My old friends call me Bill, but everyone else calls me Will. Yeah. And they don't question it anymore because they know who I am. So I write about it, I talk about it, and now they just know, oh, that's because he's a Stoic, or that's because he's a philosopher, that's because he's a surfer. I don't like these are the things that are just now like, oh, that he does it because that's who he is.
That's who he is, and it speaks. It's one and the same. There's such a level of authenticity and discipline that comes with it. That's what now people just have trust in your character. It's not like he's this way when he's that, and then he's this way when he's that. They can count on you showing up and being who you are when you show up. So I call that a sturdy hand in your life. We need each of us, as we should be striving to become that person. But having people in our life that show up that way is one of the gifts that I feel also helps to accelerate your path to it. You become your life will mirror that of the 5 people that you hang around with. So if you have one of those, it's the best. It's one of the best gifts you can have in life in your journey. Even when you don't know why it is that you feel so secure and that's a reliable person. It's like ever since I was a child, not tooting my own horn, but I always had friends and people who weren't friends, but groups of people come on. Alisa, come. Let's ask Alisa, or get Alisa on the phone. Family's like, yeah, what are you thinking? You realize that you're in a space of judge, jury, and executioner. That's a lot of responsibility. As you get older, you start to realize this can be overwhelming, and then so much ride on what you say in the workplace, and you're not even the manager or the CEO or any of these things, but everybody just kind of relies on you. And now you have people who victimize you because they're like, yeah, she seemed to be everybody should go to her like she's in charge, but it's because they can count on your character and your authenticity. Yes. And they know that when you commit or whatever it is you're doing, it always offers results and it's consistent over time. It might not be the loudest thing, the biggest, most impressive gesture, but when it's done, it's done. And it's
Consistency.
yes. And humans
You
need
nailed
that
it.
more than we know. And I tell people, if you're a parent or you're even not a parent, if you are parents, you got to work on that because that's what builds character in your child more than anything that you will tell them. Is if they can look at the parenting authority in their life as a unit and as individuals and see consistency, that's where the trust in themselves, like their own self, like who they become and how they think and feel and show up in the world is based on that. So I know I went in long, but I just felt like that was a moment that you gave us that is something we can just pull all the way through every aspect of life.
If you wake up and if you're a morning person and you dedicate 30 minutes to just mindset exercises, some stoicism, whether it's psychology, whether it's something to put and harness your mind and practice, you will improve far beyond anything you've ever imagined because you're compounding that each and every day. But you have to do it before anyone else is up. Now, I get up at 4, and I didn't intentionally mean to do that, but it just started happening where I wanted to get so much done that by the time the day happens, I don't kind of get strained by it. I got something in it, and I can a lot of times use something. Like true freedom means walking away from what impresses others to protect what fulfills you. Like it doesn't mean anything. Like I got a new, like I don't care. Like I want to be on a surfboard. I want to be on a trip. Like I want to spend time with people that I don't. Like those are things that are priceless.
Those are the things you cannot replace. That time I was listening to, I don't know if you've seen Eddie Murphy says you have 70, average, he talked about the average lifespan. You have 75 summers, 75 springs, 75. He's like, when you look at it that way, you don't, it's not a lot now, is it? And I'm like, nope. I mean, I remember hearing that in the movie and it's seen it making circles around the internet. I'm like, if we start to think like that, we value time. Like really, I have not seen a funny thing. You just say you don't know any really, really rich people, but when they show you stuff in the movies, they always show you how someone's obsession with external gains, finances, money, buildings, power in the corporate arena or in whatever, in the financial space, whatever, they always tend to show us that it led to some part of their demise, or they show you how much they're losing and giving up on that journey to it, and then them getting there and still looking back for the simple things in life, where they just want to connect with the grass or the ocean or be in a senior home with older people or in a preschool, or they always just look for the simple things. I'm like, they're telling us something.
I hope that because I think right now with the oligarchs, the way they are, they're just trying to suck everything dry. And the greatest, I don't remember where I heard this or how I came about it, but wealth is like seawater. The more you drink, the thirstier you get. And I can promise you, if you've wrecked on a surfboard, I drank a lot of water. It doesn't quench your thirst. And that's essentially what too much wealth is. It's like if you were Elon Musk and you made $1 million a day, 1,000 years later, you wouldn't have as much money as him. That's too much money. Just 38,000 years.
Yes.
Basically, when the Homo sapiens came out of Africa and got rid of everybody, only that long ago.
Only that long ago. You see that?
Yeah. So if you made just $1 million a day, you probably can't live off of it, I know. But if you did that for like 38,000 years, you'd have as much money as Elon. Well, you wouldn't now because it's even more. So the point is
way more.
When I tell people that, they're like, how much again? I'm like, you're not understanding.
Right.
So I like to try to use examples because it highlights like, wow, that's a lot of money. I'm like, yeah, that is a lot of money.
Way more than you need. I mean,
yes.
This is why crazy. Elon was able to, he just did what he did with his money. And I'm not going to go into it, but because he doesn't need it.
They can
For
buy
us,
everything.
It's like, oh my God, how dare he do that? I'm sure he could find something better. No, he's got too much.
They don't pay tax.
If he has a wave of an emotion of like, I think I want to start a pot and get this dude doing that, this gal doing that, this one doing that, and I trying to check whatever. He make $1 million a day. What? It's nothing. He don't need it.
It's nothing.
That's what I was saying to my friends last night. I was like, I think we overestimate the fact that no matter how advanced we are in technology and our thoughts and our thinking and how we can dream something up and create it tomorrow, that we're still only just a human being, and we still have basic needs that are so basic. If we go back to Maslow's theory, the hierarchy of needs, it's still that. I mean, they're changing it around and flipping things around and adding things and moving things around. But for me, at the end of the day, you need clothing, water, shelter, of course, food, air, oxygen, and carbon dioxide,
education,
education,
and human rights.
And yes, and then you also need to feel like you're seen and you're heard and that you matter. It doesn't change. It doesn't matter where in the world you are and what your income is. These are still your needs. Yeah. And so having 20 million, 10 million, or $10, when you have $10, you need to get those things. And you want to secure it. This is why you forecast and like, okay, how can I make it? Cars are extra. It has a cold side and a warm side at night. That's a California king. It's extra because honestly, as you can see, the people who are homeless are just happy they found a spot on the road with a cardboard box.
There's no reason to have homelessness here today. There's no reason to not have health care. There's no reason. We have so much money, but yet we allocate it to the freeloading billionaires. I always call them freeloading billionaires. And the workers.
Yes, they are freeloaders.
I call them profit creators. So I use the language. Profit creators are workers. They're not job creators. We're profit, because without workers, you have no profit.
Exactly.
And when you reframe things correctly, people go, I've never heard that term, which when you started this conversation of talking about how people talk and direct the narratives, if you listen to AOC or Bernie or some of the other ones, Jasmine Crockett, you realize they are not talking the way other people are. They're saying, we're in this together. I'm not red. I'm not blue. I want jobs for you. They are talking with people and to people, not over people. They're not trying to sell them. Like, I'll never forget, Hillary goes, oh, yeah, I keep hot sauce in my purse. I'm like, no, you don't. Come on, stop that.
Girl, you can't eat hot sauce. Your face will be pink.
She said that on like a New York radio station. I'm like, I don't believe that.
And you see, those are the little things that makes me distrust you.
Yes.
If you're going to lie about something that simple and unnecessary, why should I believe you're going to? And again, we are not saying, oh, I'm red or blue. I don't even subscribe to that junk. But I'm telling you, that goes back to that trust over truth. Like, how can I trust you? And that's what I tell people. Like, I've seen people in my own networks getting on social media and, for example, oh my goodness, I just came back from this trip and found out that I won this prestigious award. Woman, girl, bye. The date is planned for next month. Yeah. How did you just find out that you won there is no way. This is such a prestigious award, like you said, that this stuff is planned a year ago. And they decide their nominees almost a year ago at least. Yes. And you knew before you left and went to wherever you just came back from that you were it. You're just not posting it. Oh, great. I get to go to Zimbabwe. And now I just came back last night and found out, oh my God. You do not like the fact that you lied.
I hate that.
About something so simple. You couldn't just post that I am so grateful I was nominated and now I'm receiving this prestigious. That would have been enough, boo. But here you are with this. I'm not trusting you.
People embellish things that just don't matter at all. They just don't matter at all. And that I'll never understand. That's where I think the mindset and the training sets you up, where if you know how to speak to people on the level, like I know what it's like to have negative bank accounts. Yes, I had privilege in many areas, but I also had failures and been fired and had all kinds of problems and suffered. And that's the human component that you realize in stoicism and other places. Like, human suffering has just been a way of life for so many people, unless you were born extremely wealthy, and most of us
are not. And even they suffer. They suffer differently because a lot of people
put to death with poison. Seneca put to death with poison.
I see people saying what I would do to be Prince Harry or what I would do to be Meghan Markle. And I'm like, child, nothing. Not me. I've done nothing because I have seen my suffering and I'm good on that because what I've become, I learned to master the waves, right? It's again, and I use some stuff for, in my own life.
Read the waves so you know which ones to ride, which ones to duck.
And when I talk about flowing and being like water, I say, look, the rock doesn't care. The water and the wave doesn't care that it's, hey, look, there's a surfer. What do I do? Should I keep rolling or not? No, the surfer has to look to see where the wave is going, and he or she decides to go in and flow with it, because that wave will not change its mind about its direction. It doesn't get worried that there's a rock. It doesn't get worried that there's a human, a shark, none of that. It just doesn't. So you as a human, you decide how you go. And so going through I'm on my growth journey, and my job is to create. Yes, I want to create. We're not saying be poor and broke because I said we only have so many needs, because the impact my purpose requires me to have at least a $2 billion network that's operating and functioning, because there's so many people and things that need to be served. But me personally, I tell people, for me to be really comfortable in this economy that we have right now, about $300,000 a year, I am super good, just because of how I live my life, and I'm comfortable with it. Like I don't need red bottoms. I don't need a Lamborghini. Those things, if I have them, it might be because the man in my life likes Lamborghinis. And I won't force myself on it. I'll get in there. I'll enjoy it. I'll be excited about it for him. I'll even buy it for him. But for me personally, I'd rather pay a driver than to own a Lamborghini that I drive.
I don't like driving. And think about this.
Too.
If you get to go on a trip and a journey, wherever you go, I went surfing. I surfed with people for 2 weeks. I met people at Palo Alto. I met a CFA who was surfing, and they're not your typical people. And he was in England. Like, I met people, a firefighter, you meeting all, like, those are the experiences afterwards. We're sitting there on the car ride back for an hour on this, bouncing around in the truck on these terrible roads, and we're just talking. No one has their phone because you have no service. Like, that's the memories that I loved. Or when I went to see the orangutans, I'm sitting with all these women, and it was just me and like 7 women in this one vehicle. And I'm just listening to them talking. And I'm like, it was just relaxing because I get to experience things so far outside of my scope. And I will always remember. One of them's a world-class zoologist. Another one had traveled. She was a crazy traveler, and she got kidnapped in Morocco.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What a good story time.
You know what I mean?
You're watching a real Colombiana there. That's like you're watching talking to someone who's making, like, they're in a whole movie, like Colombiana. She goes, yeah, that's funny.
I didn't want to tell him. She goes, the worst thing is my dad kept telling me, watch, I'll get kidnapped. And then I was the one person out of like 10 billion people that gets kidnapped. She's like,
gosh.
You know what I mean? Like, he's your parents. Yes. Don't do this, don't. And it happened to her. Now, she got out of it. She got robbed or whatever. But she's like, that's the thing. Is like, my dad told me it would happen. And like, there's no chance it happens. And it happens to you.
My gosh. And it's funny because you think when you're international travel, you think of all the things that could go wrong. And you start, like for me, I start thinking about all the movies I saw, and I started to think, well, what's my mindset? What's going to be if they snatch me up, how am I going to act? And I preempted. I'm like, okay, first of all, I'm not going to panic. I'm like, okay, what do you want? Sure. Okay, fine. And I'm like, that's not going to work. And I'm like, you just don't understand. You stress people out when they want control. You stress them out by giving them control because they want to fight for it. So it puts them off their plan because they expect resistance. So if you're not resistant, then they're like, what do I do? And that gives you a window of opportunity. I don't know. I'm making stuff up. Just whatever, guys. That's me. But I'm always like overthinking stuff, like how do I think it through? I think the mindset is just to be present. I think one of the things I say, I feel like we are most powerful when we're present. And it's funny.
If we're listening and paying attention to what they're doing, what they're wearing, how they're behaving, those are things I can tell we're very much like that. And it's helpful to share how we do it and what we do to get those times. But, you have to be it's crazy you brought this up. I broke up a armed robbery. I do live in Baltimore, but I broke up an armed robbery where these 9 people jumped the kid, and I ran out and I scared them so much because they're like, what is this guy? It was 5:14 in the morning. I'm running out and I grabbed the guy, ran him back in. I won't tell you the rest of the story, but the point is that I shocked them. They jumped in their car and easily they could have overwhelmed me, but they were thrown off by the brazen nature of me. And I just did it without thought to get somebody in. And I know 911 doesn't work because it took them, 15 minutes to get here. And I'll never forget the police station's a mile away. Yeah. A mile away. They could have gotten here.
And they took 15 minutes.
Yeah.
They probably were sleeping. They weren't.
I'll never forget that. But, like you just said, I didn't think about it. I just reacted because I heard someone screaming, help, help. And I ran out. And long story short, I did throw them off because they were like, oh my God, this guy's running out. He must be crazy.
Crazy. Exactly. Who knows? He's probably going, you know?
Yes,
so
correct.
but you were present in the moment. I think that's why I love to practice presence as much as I can. So people don't understand, like, I'm sitting here and I'm in this conversation. You know, I'm not thinking about what I'm going to eat, what I'm going to do. I have another guest after our recording, but I'm not even thinking about them. Now I do because I just brought it up. Yes. But my point is, if you can practice being present as much as you can, it really opens up your responses, and delayed responses that you allow yourself to process. Honestly, if you're in presence, it comes faster, it's clearer, and you make better decisions. That's just my way. One of my biggest goals that I work on. People like think, oh yeah, turn off your cell phone when you're with your family at the dinner table. Those are wonderful practices, but I'm talking just being present, even in moments when it's not comfortable. Like, be present in uncomfortable situations.
Yes. And what you mentioned earlier about EQ is very important. And I think JQ, judgment, is if you can control your emotions, then you can make better judgments. Those work and slow things down. So I often will write down things that get me upset or bother me. And then I think Abraham Lincoln did this, where you write them down and then you just put them away. And then you eventually, you don't, because you need a way to sometimes process it, and it may be a lot. So if you write it down, like, this is really bothering me, you then learn to control your emotional component. And if your judgments are based on your emotions, then controlling your emotions will then have a massive impact on the judgments you make, because you're withholding your emotions before you make that reactionary judgment.
Exactly.
So these are like the mindset pieces, and Stoicism talks about this. Understanding your behaviors and emotions are determined, by what you allow to filter into you. And if your judgments are based on your emotions, then you need to control your emotions. It doesn't mean you're emotionless, but what good is it to react to everything? You just be running around angry. And so much of the stuff, if someone says something bad about you, well, you don't have any control. And Epictetus said, oh, that's just one of my faults. I have 20 other good ones you should have used. That's what he said. He said, oh, you don't even know me that well. If you should have picked the better ones. Because once you kind of throw that away, that person who you felt was over top of you, or if you made a bad judgment, it just washes away because they have no power over you. So these are like the mindset you need for all pieces of life.
And of your life,
Yes. And not care what others think.
I love that you said, because a lot of people believe that anyone who practices stoicism are emotionless. That's not it. Those are people, I would say, my layman's term is people who have mastered how to use their emotions in a way that benefits who they are, why they are, and what they do, and who they do it with. And that whole writing thing, listen, ladies, if you're listening, I want to tell you, if you stop going up to your husband or your man and yelling in his face, before you do that, write down why you're angry. I promise it would change a lot in your relationship. Thank me later.
I do it. It saves it, because it got me from being upset at little tiny things that really didn't mean anything.
And blowing off the top.
You go, that's so stupid. And then I'm looking at myself going, God,
I'm
an idiot.
What am I upset about?
And that's
anyway?
Okay. And that's why I write for in the market, because then I go back, I reread everything, and I go, okay, that I'm going to do that. I said that. I'm going to update, because you have a process now.
Yes.
And anger is like a fever. Anger is like a fever that you burn off.
Spikes. Yes. Come on.
And that's it. So it's a tool. So these little tiny tools I use for everything I do.
Yes.
And one of the hardest parts about surfing is trying to get out of the break, meaning when the waves are coming in, you keep ducking under the waves. That can be very challenging, because if you don't get far enough, you get pulled 50 yards back and you get stuck in this washing machine over and over again. And that's one of the biggest challenges for pretty much everybody when they start. And I can do it now, but a couple of times I just had to come back in, sit down on the beach and go, why am I doing this again? And just meditate for 10 minutes, because I couldn't get out into the water where the fun was. And I had surfed and felt like I had made major progress, but I think it was the second to last time I couldn't get out. I'm going, am I the worst person on the earth? Have I learned anything? And you start quiet, and then you sit down and relax, and then you get yourself together and you go back out and you're fine. But we all have
Yeah.
those moments of questioning and clarity, or we make a bad trade, we make a bad decision, but we have to have a process and a mindset and a decision model to help us
Hmm.
improve.
Yes, we do. We have to have a decision model. Listen, y'all know this is a lot. He's given the gems of the gems because those are life gems. I'm telling you, and I concur with them because a lot of them I use in my life, and a lot of them that I haven't been using, I can see how it would already change so much once put into practice. Oh my goodness. I can't believe that time just goes by so much when you're
It
having
does.
good,
We've talked about a
healthy
lot of
conversations.
stuff.
Yeah, we did. So much of life and business. I have to ask you though, Will, when it comes to success, how do you define that for yourself?
Success for me, and you have to figure out what that equation is for enough. And for me, it's being able to travel as often as I like,
I love
probably
that.
every other month. And I'm
Yeah.
going to move somewhere for the winter to have a place. I don't need a big place. I don't need a big house. Somewhere where I can take the dogs and I can surf every day, enjoy the
Oh, that ain't
warmth.
gonna be Arizona. I was gonna say come to
No.
Arizona, but it's not gonna be. There's no way it's
It's
here.
Central America, most likely, because I don't like, or possibly the West Coast, but I like to be closer to this time zone. So
Yes.
I've been to Costa
Central.
Rica a lot, but I mean, Panama could be another
So
option.
beautiful there.
They're not far away. And they also
Yeah.
have a green zone, one of them on blue zone, where people live a long time.
Yeah.
And it's one of 5. And to me, that way I'm kind of somewhere where I'm not driving a lot. I have the ocean, the water. It's weird. I'm
Yes.
52. I'm running around without my shirt off, like
Oh, I
on the
love
beach.
it.
It's just funny because that's not like anything back home. And everybody's kind of grounded. You meet people who are very wealthy sometimes, like this one person in England got multiple flats. And you're just
Yeah.
connecting and you're not talking about the business stuff. That
Yes.
to me is enjoyable. And then to continue to do the animal rescues, I want to do some type of thing with elephants in Laos next year. That's one of my goals. So I want to do that. That's what makes me happy.
Well, you have to share with me where you go, when you go, and you have to send me pictures.
I will
At
definitely
least so
send
I
you
can live
pictures.
vicariously until I can get out. Central America, I have not spent time in Central America yet. That's on my big list, and I'm exploring too, living multiple places throughout the year because that's what I love to travel to. So the goal is to continue to build in the virtual space so that I can live and work wherever remotely and travel because it's as again I said 75 summers, winters, there's not a lot. There's my goal of course is to live longer, but you don't know, right?
You just
So do
don't
it
know.
now. Don't wait for perfect. A lot of people think, well, I'd love to do that. How much does that cost? I'm like, see, that's the problem. Because you already put in barriers. Figure out, how do I get there? Just ask how and get a plan. Like maybe you do need to sit down and have conversations with Will and work with him so you can make your financial plan. Like a lot of people, they're young people who haven't worked a day in their lives and they're investing in stock and doing all that. And that's where they work. They work remotely. They get to see the world and they're in their 20s, very smart. Heard of a young man who passed away at 25, never worked for anyone a day in his life, and he still left money that his parents are going to be able to live off of. But he spent so much time living and traveling around the world and meeting different types of people. It was such a heartwarming story, and it just reminded me why you don't put it off. If that's what's in your heart to do, that's what you're born to do. Just go do
You
it.
need
Now
less than
is
you
always the time.
think. You need less than you think in many ways. You need food, you need healthcare, you need this, but we don't need a lot of the things that we keep in the house. We should spend a lot of our time with our friends, family, and outside the house in community. And
Yes.
to me, I think that is where you figure out, like, this is a good life. I'm having dinner with my friends out.
Right.
Yes. Or they're coming over and having dinner with me and you're laughing and you remember breaking bread and you have the stories, because all our life is a bunch of stories put together.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
It's just very simple.
Yes, I love it. And you don't want to be in the 13th row of your own life. Get up
No.
close and live it. Create those memories. Absolutely. What is the next big wave for you that you're preparing? Well, you just told us. So what kind of mindset is required for you to figure out getting to Central America? Or you got it figured out already?
Well, one of the things I've written about, I am building my business in a new way. I've kind of made some adjustments over the past 2 years, and I split with my business partner, and that way I could do everything the way I wanted to. So my goal is to get a certain amount of clients that are aligned with me morally, virtuously with the same mindsets.
Yes.
And that's why I write the way I do, because I want to attract the same type of people that are looking for somebody who isn't just money, money, money. Because most of the people in our field, it's always about money. I'll make you money. I'll do a great job for you. But I'm not going to deliver it in the same way, and it's not going to be cookie cutter. So for me, as long as they know we're not going to meet face to face very often, because I'll be traveling around, and most don't anymore because of COVID. My goal is to grow to a certain level. You know, the average advisor might have 125 households. I'll never do that. I'll never need that. I'll have more people work for me and have them. So my goal is maybe have 70, 75 households max.
Yeah, that you're working
and
with.
Yeah, and just build those relationships and work with their families and have people of similar mindsets and growth like that, or at least bring them on with somebody else. Because I think more than ever in a world where we have overwhelming social media and stuff, I can pick up the phone and talk to people, and it surprises them, because like, I'm not one of those like a lot of places, the big ones on TV typically have one advisor for 200 households. So that's almost 400 people. If you can't pick up a phone, I like calling and talking to people. I love the relationships. I love hearing about that stuff, not just running into a meeting for an hour and saying, I'm not that type. So for me, it becomes a long-term relationship and it's enjoyable. I charge a little more, but again, that's because you're getting a personal relationship.
But you get results, and you're getting, and that's also, again, that trust factor, because that's what I tell people, that when I work with individuals, that is the number one thing for me. It's not like I will pay you whatever I need to pay you, but I need to be able to trust you. I need to be able to have a connection. And you said morally, in your values, all of that is so important for me, because time is money, right? And I'm not just watering down our time, but when you get into the business arena, how much time I invest with you is financial, but it's something that you can't really equate. Giving people time, you need to figure out who on earth you don't want to spend time with someone. So if the stock goes down and I don't make the money I thought I would make or we predicted, that relation is not going to go sour, because I trust you. We have a relationship. You know what I'm saying? We have a partnership going. So
yes, it's
that's
partnership.
A bump in the road that we are going to go through together. It's not like, well, now I got to call Alisa and tell her that, stocks didn't go well on this one. How do I tell her that? Because you know how she is. You already figured out that this person is someone I can work with. They can work with. Temperaments are in alignment. It doesn't mean we have to be the same, but we have this trust and respect and honor for each other, and the business flows. No matter high, low, we go through it together. We work through it together, and that's why it's so important for me to build those relationships as well. I'd rather have just a few, and I build slowly and get by until I get where I'm going. And I tell people, when we had our programs in Guyana, everybody did not get enrolled, because it just didn't. The values weren't there, and they will just stir the whole.
The values matter to me.
Yeah.
When you start out, you can't necessarily. To me, I'm like, I don't think this is a good fit, because we need to be morally and virtuously aligned with. I don't want someone starving out on the street, or kids not being fed. Like,
to be able to do this.
Yes, I and you're going to feel that from me in my writings, because I'm going to write that. And that's going to make you uncomfortable. It's not going to work for you.
It's not going to work for you. Exactly.
I already know that, because people get upset.
Right.
But again, like I say, my goal is to have a long-term relationship. I'm going to help you with the taxes, the income taxes, I do everything.
Wow.
And it's me.
That's awesome.
Now, I have people that work for me, but the point is I do it because I care and I enjoy it. I just don't want to be overwhelmed. I'm never going to be overwhelmed, because I want to surf, I want to read, I want to walk the dogs. Correct. So I give you everything, but I'm not going to work 12-hour days to have as many clients as possible. That's enough for me. That's what matters to me, where most people are just looking at money going up and working constantly. Like, the quality of your life and the connections you make and who you meet and the travels you take, they will be so monumental in your life when you meet. I've met so many amazing people over the past year that I talk to them and I text them and WhatsApp them. And that to me is like, wow, I sit there sometimes and go, I can't believe all the people I've met and the relationships. And it's just it makes me, it fills my heart full of joy. And that I can't overwork myself.
I love it. The question I have for you is, who do you work with? Who are your ideal clients?
Ideally, most people over 50. people who have a 500,000 or more. That doesn't mean we can't have a conversation.
Right.
That I oftentimes have a conversation with me. I'll give you some guidance on that. If it's less, it's no problem. It's just I have to be careful about how many people I take on because I make a commitment and a promise. And when I say it, I fulfill it.
Yeah.
And on that side, you can reach out to me, willryoung.com. But if you have a question, reach out to me. Join my mailing list. I also send tips, and I'll send you this. I have what's called an intro to points. It's how to book first-class flights using your points. But for significantly, because I take my surfboards, and I don't get charged for that. And everybody says I know how to use points. I promise you, this is just a little tweak where you don't buy through the company that you get the points from, and you don't get a Delta card. You have to transfer them to a different company. Like when I flew to South America, I booked on Air Canada, but I flew on United. So again, I'm only telling you that so that people read it, because a lot of times they say I know, and I'm like, you don't. So
you don't, because that is unheard of.
Yes. So I booked Qantas, which is the Australian company, to fly to Costa Rica. And you're like, what?
Wow.
So it's not hard because you just go to Qantas.com and book the flight. So it's no different than doing United. You're using the partners, and there's a website that shows you the lower cost. So I flew to and from first class to Costa Rica for $180 each way, essentially.
No.
Yeah, and I took two surfboards. I took two surfboards, which is oversized, and I pack like a woman who's leaving for 6 years. I pack 10 pairs of shoes because I don't know why.
I'm calling you tomorrow.
My old girlfriend, she'd be like, you pack too much. Of course, she's wearing tiny clothes, but I mean, I'm like, I don't know what could happen. Maybe we get stuck in the jungle for 6 months.
You see what I'm talking about? We must have been twins in another life, because that is me. And I tried to become so, and then if I'm traveling with other people, I'm bringing stuff in case something goes down with them. Not necessarily clothes and shoes, but I'm bringing all the different things. Like, everybody on the trip is going to have something to prop their feet on because it's a long international flight.
I'm going to bring
umbrellas for everybody. Yeah. I'm bringing raincoats for people.
Yes, raincoats, first aid kits. That's just because I'm surfing too, and you never know.
You never know what you see, that's the problem with us. You never know. That is what gets me in all the trouble on travel. Well, you never know. It could be cold, but then it might be not so cold, so I need a jacket, but then I need a sweater, and I need a lighter sweater, because you never know. And it just goes from there, and then here I come. Darn, girl, you was going somewhere for 4 days. But you know what? Here they come. You said you have. I saw that you have. That's what I thought. You knew, but I never wear all the stuff I bring. But you know what?
I never do.
I was prepared.
The stuff doesn't get worn. Yeah, that's what happens. I just wash it. But I just always have extra for some reason, because I like to lay everything out.
So if you're going for $180 across the world, you are my new travel bestie. You got to give me all the tips. Give me the tea, as they say. Pinkies up.
I will send you that. It is amazing. And people are always shocked. People are always shocked. And then they do it. I even helped a few clients. She booked a first class flight from England to Miami. She goes, oh my God, it was only $500. And they had a bar, and it separated the first class from the people in the back.
I pay way more than that. And I don't usually travel first class unless a client's booking me out. My goodness, I'm telling you, I'm excited.
It's stunning. I do it all the time.
I want to go to, if I can go to Guyana for cheap, I'm going, because I want to bring a couple people. So it'll really help me. If I can get to my country here, I'm on it. I got to go to Africa. I got so many places to go. So if I can save money on travel. Yeah. Well, let me know when you're ready to go. I've got a lot of, good people on the continent too. So tell us, what's your favorite way to connect with you? Of course, listeners and viewers, all of it's going to be in the description wherever you're watching or listening to this episode. Well, go ahead. Tell us how you want us to connect.
You can look me up at willryoung.com. It's easy. My tagline on pretty much everything is wealth, wisdom, virtue, and the pursuit of less. That's essentially how I live. That are the key elements to stoicism. You can Google search me on there. You can put in your information. You can book an appointment with me. Just have a phone call. It's enjoyable to talk, get to know each other, or you could just join the mailing list, and I send updates on the markets. I send points. because if I can save you a couple $1,000s a year in travel, you can save that money for your IRA. That is a wonderful place to do it. Or you have money to do more excursions or whatever the case. But the airlines do quite well, and there's no reason we need to make them even richer.
Come on now. They don't need that much. Spread the wealth as much as you can. And it's funny because they would just put someone, I was traveling one time and they just, I don't know what if they overbooked or whatever. And they're like, would you mind sitting at a window seat? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine sitting in the window. And it was first class. They didn't even think anything. But if I wanted to upgrade to first class on my own, it would probably cost me $1,500. Phil's info is in the description, and all the things. I think Phil, the mailing list is on your website. We'll get the special link to there, so you guys can just click and go sign up. I promise you, I'm very, very fascinating with the mail that he sent out, because there's just so much information that for things you are thinking and sort of probably even worrying about, that he's already giving you like tools. And then just get on a call with him. Like, you might not be at the $1 million mark, you might not be 50, but you're almost there, and you have some things coming up that you kind of want to do. Book a call. It never hurts to book a call with someone, and knowing how you can build that relationship with them, where they're, what they offer will solve. If his voice, his message, and his values resonate with you, I would advise you to do that today. Will, it has just been such an amazing time talking with you.
Yes,
you're
thank
so
you.
Powerful. Yeah, you've shown us that whether it is standing on a surfboard or standing in the middle of financial chaos, the key isn't the wave, it is our mindset. And I strongly believe that. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for adding so much value to our listeners. And for all of you disruptors out there, remember to keep mastering your mindset. Think, speak, do, become. I'm Dr. Alisa Whyte with my co-host today, William R. Young, and we will see you on the next one. Bye now.
Thank you.